Hi, madam. Right now, we are going to present our statistics project with title The Study of Reading Practice Among FSKTM Students. Before we start, I would like to introduce our group member. Our group member consists of 6 members, which are Tan Yongquan, Ong Pei-yi, Lou Yinqian, Di Li Shi, Qin Kai-yuan, and me, Bang Qinhu. First is the introduction. I would like to talk about the general information. So this project is being conducted to mainly understand the length of FSKTM students' reading practice, the books they read, and what environment is more suitable for FSKTM students to read. Next is the background and justification. So why do we conduct this project is that the rapid development of the technology, FSKTM students need to keep up with time so that to ensure their knowledge is constantly up to date. They can learn by reading to improve themselves as well as to prevent deficiency of employment rate in the future. Moving on to the problem statement. Nowadays, students are not willing to read due to some circumstances such as shortage of time, lack of interest, and insufficient reading skills. And this may lose their concentration and giving up reading, especially when they want to study some facts, literature review, and research. So we conduct this project to investigate the reading practice based on their types of reading, time, cost, and others. So a random sample of 80 students are selected from 100 FSKTM students, and the mean of each sample is determined. Next is the project objectives. In our project, we have come out 4 objectives, which are the first one, to compare how likely the students in FSKTM like to read books. Second, to analyze the number of books that the students read on average per month. Third, to identify if reading is important for our future. And fourth, to analyze the relationship between gender and the proficiency of reading. So that's all from my presentation. I would like to give it to my next group member. Thank you.
For question 1 is one sample test. We collected 100 questionnaire from FSKTM students by Google Form. We use SPSS to label the answer. The question is, how much you like to read? We use SPSS and Excel to make descriptive analysis. We assume that the population of FSKTM students is 100, and based on the Crucial and Morgan sampling method, the most suitable sample size for population 100 is 80. This is the descriptive analysis for sample. For normality analysis, the significant value both are shown 0.001, which means it's less than 0.05. So the distribution of the data is significantly different from normal distribution, thus the data is not normally distributed. The average of the FSKTM student who like to read is 2.87, and the standard deviation is 0.879. The size of the Lambda sample is 80, and with the sample mean 2.85, and the confidence level is 95%. For hypothesis testing, the H0 is equal to 2.87, while H1 is not equal to 2.87. So this is the 2-2 test, and by the calculation, the z-score is equal to negative 0.2035. For critical region, the red color area is the critical region, which is the area that rejects H0. Since z is equal to negative 0.2035, which is larger than negative 1.96, H0 is accepted in this case. In conclusion, the average of FSKTM students who like to read is 2.87 at level of significance 0.05. Thank you.
So now I'll start to present for the question 2. Question 2 is the number of books that students read on average per month. So this is the case study of question 2. Based on the survey that we collected, we found that the average number of books that students of SSKTM read per month is 2.26. A random sample of 80 students are then chosen by using the Cradle and Morgan table for the hypothesis test with a mean of 2.3 and standard deviation of 0.6726. Test at 5% significant level whether the null hypothesis is accepted or rejected. So we declare that the null hypothesis is mean equals to 2.26 and the alternative hypothesis which is not equal to 2.26. For normality testing, since the significant value of Kolmogorov, Smirnov, and the Shapiro whale are both 0.001, which is less than 0.05 respectively, the distribution of data is significantly different from the normal distribution. Thus, the data is not normally distributed. So this is the descriptive analysis of the data that we get by using SPSS. So for hypothesis testing, first we declare the hypothesis, null hypothesis, and the alternative hypothesis. And then the level of significance we found by using this formula, and we found that the Z test is equal to 1.96, and by using the formula we found the Z value is negative 0.3989. So since Z is equal to negative 0.3989, which is bigger than the critical region, which is negative 1.96, so we do not reject the null hypothesis. Thus, the number of books that the student of FSKTM read on average per month is 2.26 at a level significant of 0.05. So that's all for the question 2.
Now I will accept about the question 3. For question 3, we have 32% out of 100 of the FSKTM students strongly agree that reading is important for their future. Again, when we choose 80 FSKT students for the sample, we know that only 36.25% out of 80 FSKT students state they strongly agree. Based on the result, should we accept the null hypothesis or reject? We use the significant level of 0.05. First of all, we use the normality testing. Since the significant value of Kolmogorov whale and the Shapiro whale are both 0.001, smaller than 0.05, we know that the distribution data is significantly different from normal distribution. Hence, the data is not normally distributed. And here is our hypothesis testing. For the null hypothesis, the proportion equal to 0.32, and the alternative hypothesis is proportion not equal to 0.32. And next, we use the binomial testing. We can see that the percentage of FSKTM students strongly agree that reading is good for the future is 32%. And we can see that the decision state that it will retain the null hypothesis. It means there is not enough evidence to reject the null hypothesis. Because some of the FSKTM students think knowledge can help them a lot in the future. And next, we use the suitable formula for the test statistic. And then we can see that since for this question is a two-tailed test, the p-value is the probability that the z-score is more than 0.81 and less than negative 0.81. We use the suitable table to find the p-score, and we know that p-value is 0.418. 9% significance level will reject null hypothesis when p-value is smaller than significant level. Since the p-value is more than the significant level, we fail to reject the null hypothesis. There is not sufficient evidence to suggest that the proportion of FSKTM students strongly agree that reading is important for the future is not 32%. The result is also same as the table in 4.3.7, which used the SPSS to test the hypothesis. Now I will pass to my friend to explain the next step.
Next, we will look at question 4. This question is to investigate and examine the relationship between gender and proficiency in reading. A total of 100 FSKTM students were involved with the data consisting of 66 females and 34 males. The independent variable in this test is the gender, while the dependent variable is the proficiency in reading of gender. Two methods, which are graphical and statistical, are used to test whether the data is normally distributed or not. First, we'll look at the box plot. The box plot for males shows that the length of the top whisker is shorter than the bottom whisker, so the distribution of the data is not symmetrical, therefore the data of male is not normally distributed. On the other hand, the box plot for females shows that the whiskers' lengths are the same, indicating distribution of the data is symmetrical, therefore it is normally distributed. Next, based on histogram above, both of the histograms are not bell-shaped as the data are not clustered in the middle area. Hence, the data is not normally distributed. The normal QQ plot or quanta plot for male and female, most of the observed values falls on the line of expected value and appear to have a linear pattern. Hence, it can be concluded that the data is normally distributed. But in the normality table, the significance value of Kolmogorov, Smirnov, and the one of the Shapiro whale of both male and female are less than 0.001, which is smaller than the significance level of 0.05. Thus, the data is not normally distributed. Since both graphical and statistical methods have different answers, hence an independent t-test would be the appropriate method. First, we'll look at the level test. The null hypothesis is there is no difference variance between proficiency in reading of male and female, while the alternative hypothesis is there is a difference variance between proficiency in reading of male and female. Based on the result, the p-level of levels test is 0.947, which is greater than the significance level of 0.05. Therefore, null hypothesis is accepted where there is no difference variance between the proficiency in reading of male and female. Then we look at the null hypothesis for t-test of equality of means, which is there is no difference between proficiency in reading of male and female, while the alternative hypothesis is there is a difference between proficiency in reading of male and female. Since the p-value of t-test for equality of means is bigger than the significance level, which is 0.381 is greater than 0.05, hence null hypothesis is accepted. There is no difference between the proficiency in reading of male and female. Lastly, we will look at the correlation between the proficiency of reading and gender. In the correlation table, the Pearson correlation coefficient R and the exact p-value are listed along each other. With a value for R of 0.089 and a two-tail p-value which are greater than 0.05, it can be concluded that the correlation coefficient is insignificant. Hence, the proficiency in reading is not correlate to the gender. Next, I'll pass this to the next member for the following presentation.
Now I'll discuss about the conclusion. Statistics is a branch of applied mathematics that involves the collection, description, analysis, and inference of conclusions from quantitative data. Statistics uses numerical evidence to draw valid conclusions. Besides, statistics allow people to evaluate claims based on quantitative evidence and help people differentiate between reasonable and dubious conclusions. So, in our project, a lot of statistical techniques are applied, such as statistical analysis, hypothesis testing, Shapiro-Wilk test, and Kolmogorov-Smirnov test. From the project, we know that FSKTM students rarely have a high level of love for reading books and they read at least 2 books per month. Moreover, FSKTM students strongly agree that reading is good for the futures, and there is no difference between proficiency in reading for males and females. That's all from our group. Thank you.